So the first project will be a Dollar Tree bee wreath. It was inspired by this cute little box here, this little box sign, Be Humble. We're going to use some pipe cleaners or chenille stems. I'm going to use yellow. Then I've got some thrifted yellow deco mesh and 2 black from the Dollar Tree. I've got these ribbons from Dollar Tree as well in the gardening section. Very pretty little bee themes. And believe it or not, 9 feet on the roll. Not bad. I do use 2 sets of these. And we're going to use a bicycle wheel. This wreath form you can get at Dollar Tree as well, but we're going to try something different on this one. I've never done this before, so this is going to be a totally different wreath idea for me. It might not be for you, and if you watch a lot of crafters, maybe someone else has already done this, but as far as I know, this is definitely my first time, and I've never seen it made. Okay, so on the spokes of this little bicycle wreath, they kind of stick out over the edge of the loop, so I'm using that to help me hold those places, those pipe cleaners in place, so they won't slide around from section to section. And we're going to put one on each of these going all the way around this wreath form. Easy enough, right? Easy enough. And this would be a good idea if you are just looking for something to craft and you're going with what you have in your house, but you don't necessarily have another type of wreath form. So this is an idea for you. We're going to go every other spoke right in the middle. Now these will freely move back and forth. So just get it on there as snugly as you can. If you need to use a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place, you can certainly do that. I have done that before, but doing it this way and it's not glued down actually helps me later on to move the rows up a bit. And you'll see what I mean when we get to it. So this is every other one, and I'm just doing it in a contrasting color. Hopefully this will help you kind of get the idea of what we're doing here. Okay, now we're all the way back around. So there are 12 on the outside and 6 on the inside. We are pretty much making 2 different rows. Now we're going to work on the outside first, so I'm going to just turn all of those pieces into the middle to get them out of the way. Skip this step if you don't need to do it. Just gets it out of the way, makes it a little bit neater for me, because deco mesh tries to snag on everything. Okay, now I'm going to move my pieces up and out just a little bit, so they're sort of opened like a alligator mouth, where we can get our mesh right into it. So what I'm using is 2 rows here, but if you're doing this yourself, you should probably use 1 yellow and 2 black, or at least 3 rows of whatever colors you like. So I'm going to put them together, pinch them up on the end. You see the difference in the quality of that yellow and the black? See how the black has the little taggy pieces and it's already got a fray where my hands are? The yellow one does not. It's stitched all the way on the edges and it is nice and smooth. I'm going to make 9-inch poofs on this wreath. They're close together, so we really don't have to make big poofs here. And if you use a wider deco mesh, rather than using what is these, like a 5-inch maybe deco mesh, whatever that standard smaller size is, then if you use a bigger one like 10 inches, you're going to get a lot fluffier, thicker wreath. But if not, then go ahead and use 3 and you'll fill it out nicely. There I go again with the word nicely. Okay, so another little poof. We're going to put it down, and I just kind of hold it with my hand while I twist it around. Just a few little twists to hold it on there. Continuing along, making the same size poofs all the way around that wreath. This is easy to do. We're just going to keep the yellow on top and the black underneath. Okay, so now you can see what I mean. You can still see the wreath form underneath there to some extent. We'll be adding some things on there, so it's going to be thickened up quite a bit. But there are still some areas that you'll be able to see through, and if that doesn't bother you, that is fine. Doesn't bother me, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm just going to start pulling these apart. I'll pull yellow to the inside, black to the outside, black to the inside, yellow to the outside. I'm alternating it all the way around. So the poofs are back and forth, back and forth. It almost looks like they are wrapped around one another. Nice. And had that black mesh been a little bit thicker or woven a little more tightly, it definitely would have covered more up. Now we're going to start with the ribbons. I'm going to put those together. And rather than measuring these, we are going to let the poofs underneath be the guide. So we're just going to lay them gently over the top at the same height as the poof.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
See there? I'm checking it to make sure nothing is getting squished down. I don't want to be squished up and flat. We want some fluffiness to our wreath. I'm going to go to the next section. Pinch it over and then settle it right over the top without crunching up the poof underneath. This is not hard to do. We're using the two colors. I love it. I think it's very bee-ish. 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 Yes, I think it's very bee-like. Sweet, right? I mean, what is sweeter actually? Of course, honey. But little bee butts with little fuzz on it. You know how they have the little yellow pollen that gets stuck on their little butts and their legs? That's cute. That's so cute. I love seeing the pictures of a little bee with its face stuck down in a flower, and they're so little chunky round bees. I don't know, they're cute. All right, so we're all the way back to the beginning, and you can see here that Dollar Tree does not measure correctly on their spools because we definitely did not have enough of the polka dot one, which is supposed to be the same length as a striped one. It is what it is. We're going to keep moving on. Then we're going to start on our next row, which will be on the inside. I like that this wreath will begin to look like almost like a double bow, like the bows that you get, you know, the old bows that you could get in the packages, and you can still get them, that you put on a Christmas present. That's sort of what these look like. It sort of reminds me of a flower too. You'll see. All right, so now instead of doing 9, we're going to do 8 because we're on the inside and we don't need it to be as wide, and we don't want the inside to be poofier than the outside. So we're just going to go with a 8-inch poof, place it down, and if it moves back and forth, it doesn't matter because you can freely squish it back in place. Remember, we're going to have that bee picture right in the middle, so we'll be moving these out of the way. Okay, so the inside is done, and I'm going to grab some more ribbon. I took the whole 2 spools on the outside, so this is 2 more spools that we're going to use on the inside. All right, I'm making sure I don't pull anything out of place down here. Nothing. And then we're going to use the same process. So we're just going to lay it over the top of each one of those poofs without making it flat, but don't leave a lot of room because we want it to look like one wrap. You know what I mean when I say that, right? I'm going to continue along here and place the next one down. This is exactly how we did the outside, but we're just doing it on this inner side. And the wreath never looks like too much until you get it all fluffed out. It's just resting right on the top. All right, so now we're back to our original starting place, and we can trim this off. I'm just going to cut it at a little dovetail, or you could do a slant, leaving just a little bit because I don't want anything to slip out, right? We don't want anything slipping out, and this doesn't take away from the wreath at all, having those little tails there. All right, so we can go ahead and prepare this to be placed onto the wreath, and I'm just going to use some very shallow staples and the stapler and put these pieces of pipe cleaner on here in 3 different places so that I can wrap these around the metal part of our wreath. And you can always reinforce this with a little bit of hot glue if you need to, but you certainly do not have to. It'll stay on there with the staples. All right, now remember the process we did with the black and yellow? We're going to do the same thing with the ribbon here. We're going to do dots and stripes, and stripes and dots. Dots, then stripes, and just keep going. And if you need to kind of rearrange those poofs underneath, you can do that too. Just go ahead and move those out and get those fluffed up as good as you can fluff it. Nice and full and pretty. And you see the difference it already makes. Look how full this is. Now there are places where you can still see down, but you know, that doesn't bother me at all. And if you're trying to do it as affordable as possible, then you can't let that bother you either, right? It's going to be pretty. It's going to be fine. Now, since I'm not going to add anything else in here, I'm going to make sure, of course, that they are secured down, and then I'll just trim off all of the pipe cleaners. Just like on my floral arrangements, I look at it from all angles, make sure everything looks nice together. The only thing about this is that I wish that the ribbon yellow color would have been more similar to what I have going on in this bee picture, because I really, really like it, but it's not a golden yellow, it's just a real pretty rich yellow. Now, we need something to stand this up so it doesn't sink down, right? Because we don't have a ton of poofs under there to help support it. So I'm just going to use the ribbon spool that we already used, glue it to the bottom, and then that's going to give it some support to stand up straight when we put the pipe cleaners through the mesh and down into the wire wreath. Now this is not the wreath that you are going to put on a glass door so that you can see both sides, or you're going to see the back of this. And you know, this you can put on a wall, a wood door, outside in your patio, something like that. And you don't necessarily want to use, if you've got hot glue on things, you don't necessarily want to use your cheap hot glue, because you may have problems with, you know, if you glued anything on with it popping off. Very simple, and I know that you can do this. The next one is a dried flower bee art. I struggled with the proper name for this. Okay, so here are some little wildflowers that I have off of other projects. This is some beautiful bee fabric that I got from the Crafter Square. Kind of watercolor. I love it. How can you not use it, you know? Pretty. I'm going to use some King's Gold, and it's kind of a goldish yellow color, and some paintbrushes. And of course, my antiquing wax, a brush, and a little finger dauber. I love my wax. It's well loved. You can see that, can't you? This frame that came from Dollar Tree, it looks like honeycomb. Now I got this, probably in the fall. I think in the fall. So hopefully these still have these. It's gold, but I don't really care for that, but I'm going to keep it gold, but we're going to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to take the glass out, set that aside for another project. I'm going to push these little, whatever these are in the back, these tabs, and it'll help hold it up while we paint it. So I'm going to protect my surface and put that down and grab that King's Gold and start putting it on this frame. I'll go all over both sides. If it gets a little bit streaky, you just go back over it. I don't see the need to have to paint this twice unless you really want to. I'll get the outer edges and the inside of this frame as well, so that every bit of that metallic gold is covered. We're going to make this a little more cottagey, a little more rustic, and a little more to suit my home decor. But make it your own. Always make it your own. I'm going to use this as a template on another piece of cardboard. I saved my cardboard. You're going to see where this cardboard came from shortly. And I'm going to trace this out and then cut it out. And we'll use this as our backing. I don't want to put anything down on that little nubby pieces that are sticking out on the back. Okay, so you can either use scissors or you can use some type of a blade or something to cut that. Just be careful. Then I'm going to paint it white. I'm doing this so that the colors pop rather than being a dark color when I put it on. It would be a little more faint looking, I guess, and I don't want that. I want this to really stand out, all the beautiful gold, yellow, black, everything to really pop. And you can see when you put it against that white, as opposed to putting it against my table, look at the difference. You see the difference? That's what I like. So you can see this came from my Asian food takeout, fortune cookies box. And I am going to just trim along here, and then we will be gluing this down. We enjoy our takeout food from time to time. Yes, we do. We surely do. And they always put like a piece of cardboard in the bottom of the bag, which is very appreciated because it helps give it some stability, so you're not having your bowls and your boxes just kind of flapping around in there and spilling and all that. So I like the idea of doing this. Plus it gives me a little something free to craft with, you know. All right. Hot glue, and then I'm going to press down right into that glue. You want to leave a little bit of edge if you're going to do it this way so that you have enough to fold over. If you cut it too close, you're going to be folding it to the edge, and you're still going to have to worry about raveling and that sort of thing, or unraveling. Now I'm just pushing it down so it'll be kind of flat. And in the corners, I'm going to add a little bit of glue and then flip the corner over, almost like wrapping a gift, you know. Flip it over, press it down, do the same thing to the other side. And then I can fold up that little flap without having anything hanging over. Now it will give you a little extra bulkiness in the corner, but that is not a problem unless you're going to be putting it back into the frame with the original backing. And then this would be a little too thick, but I'm not going to do that. Nope, not going to do that. Okay, moving along. This is going to be the new back for it. Just a piece of scrap cardstock. It's probably from a poster board. I try to get those when I can get them really cheap too. And they're fairly cheap at Dollar Tree. I've got this little corner cutter, and it's just like what you would use for scrapbooking or such. I got it from TEMU. But you can just cut your edges straight. This is not necessary. I just wanted to use my new tool. Okay, so once it's dry, this is how it's going to look. Now we're going to age it. So here we go with my antiquing wax, adding it and then tapping it off and then dragging it across so that it picks up on all the details in the honeycomb texture. I really like that. We had some bees, honeybees actually, to nest in the corner of our porch one year. Boy, I tell you, that's a mess. Honey leaks down, honey gets on everything, it messes up the wood, but man, the honey is good, isn't it? The honey is so good. All right, we're going to keep going here, and I'm going to get all around the edges as well. And then I'm going to bring that aging a little bit upward on the sides. This is more about the shadows and the textures in here rather than me aging it. I do like that it's rustic, and it is antiquing wax, but it gives it more of a earthy look, I think. Just my opinion. And, you know, like I said, if you enjoy the metallic, you can go ahead and leave it that way and just completely skip over this step. And you can put yours in there, and it will be great. Always dry in between your layers, of course. We don't want any wax on our white fabric. Then I'm just going to place this back down, and we can put the cover on. You can glue your cover in place if you want to, but, you know, it's not necessary. You can always just push your little tabs back down to hold it in place, and it won't go anywhere. So far, so good. I like this. You could stop there if you want to, but I've got some dried florals that I want to use, also from TEMU. Get yours anywhere. You can also get the stickers from Dollar Tree that look like ferns and little pieces of greenery, and you can use those. But I'm going to show you, if you decide you want to use something like this, how you can do it. It's really not that hard. It won't last as long as a sticker, you know, if you're dusting and that sort of thing, but you just have to be gentle with it, right? You just got to be gentle. Now I've got fern pieces and little baby breath pieces, some daisies, which are really pretty. And I'm just trying to lay them out in a place where I think they would look pretty. Got some tacky glue, and this works good for this because you have a moment to kind of move it before you have to keep everything down. It's not as thick as hot glue, so you're not going to have that messiness and the strings all over the place. And if you use a long tipped soft brush, you can get in there and gently, without much force, put the glue down on top to lock this in place. See, if you knock a piece off, you just glue it back down. But you really got to be careful. You can use your brush that is a little bit tacky to pick your pieces up like I just did. You can use a Cricut tool or a weeding tool to just tap it and pick it up. That makes it easy too. So those are just some little tips that might help you if you decide to do this. Maybe you even have some 4-leaf clovers that you've put in a Bible or in a book that you've saved. Is it just my family that has done that over the years, or does anybody else do that? Picking up 4-leaf clovers. And my mom's a clover hawk. She can find a 4-leaf clover just by walking outside and looking down. She has always been that way. I'm not so much. Now my vision is not that good. But she might not now, but she always has in the past. Fascinating. So now I'm just going to layer it how I would like it. I start by laying it out. I know how much I'm going to need, and I'm not moving stuff around too much. These little flowers, I'm not sure what they are, but they're so frail and lacy, just really pretty. I'm going to gently tap that into place in that glue that's already there. You gotta be super careful. You see how the flower just will stick to the back of that brush? And then I'm just going to place them in a way that I would if I was using some faux florals, you know, or if I was using stickers and I was layering those. I like the idea of layering. To me, it looks more natural than just dotting a flower and then leaving a space and putting another one, then leaving a space. I like that natural look. And I hope that you like this too, and the idea of this, because it's different. It's different, and I like it. I think the little bees in the picture will like it too. Yeah, that's good so far. And then I'll just do the bottom corner, and I'm going to do it essentially the exact same way. This is why it's important for your layers to be dry before you start putting things on, because you don't want, see I took another little flower tip off of there. You do not want for your wax to be wet and then you're rubbing wax all over the place. You just don't want you don't want all that. And so far, the wax has not repelled this glue. So these pieces are still on here, no problem. Y'all, I wanted to remind y'all, I am working on building up my subscribers to 100,000 because I would really like to qualify for a silver play button. And I would like to do that by Halloween of this year, October 31st. So if you're watching this video for the first time and you are not a subscriber, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel and be part of that number to help me make one of my dreams come true. All right, look at that. Look at that. I hope that you're finding something on this channel valuable, that you are finding inspiration here, that you find this a safe place to come. I try to keep the comments very clean. I try to stay on top of those so that we're not being hounded by people asking for dates. And you know how it is down there, ladies. I've seen some men hounding y'all. I've seen it, but I block them as quick as I can. Don't come over to my channel with any of that bull. That's right. Don't come over here with that. Okay, so now I'm going to make a hanger. You don't even have to do this part if you don't want to, but I'm using a curtain ring, and I'm going to put some hot glue on the back with a little bit of ribbon through it. Place that down there. And then I'm going to add a little more because I did not put it on both sides. You got to be careful. Protect your fingers. And now look at this little beauty. I really like this. You can use a different method to hang it though if you would like to make it your own. The next one is a Wildflower Gnome Pot. All right, so this I thrifted and I have had it for a while now. Not sure exactly what to do with it. I've got some blocks of foam. I've got this little bee kind little sweet gnome that I got at Dollar Tree. It's a garden stake. Got some more of those flowers because we didn't have to use them on the other project. Some fern pieces that I've recycled. Any greenery you like that would work. Here's another fern idea that I could use if I wanted to. It's some of these little fuzzy pieces. These are interesting. I'm not sure what it is, but I like it. I'm going to use several of these. All right, so this is plastic and it's intended for strawberries, right? So it's actually supposed to be in the yard, but we're not going to use it for that. We're going to make it look that way though. But I want to clean it up. It's got some seams and things like that on it. I tried sanding it But this little utility knife from Dollar Tree worked much better at getting that even. Then you're going to need to wash everything down, clean it all up. Anytime you thrift something, you should definitely be cleaning it. I actually take mine and put it in some hot soapy water and then dry it. I am going to remove the stake out of here because this stake is very difficult to cut. I don't want to break my little cutters, so I've loosened it up with my heat tool and I'm trying to get it out every way I can. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, perhaps I could just bend it and then put it in the foam this way and that might work. But then I thought, no, I don't like that either. We can change this. So eventually it gave in and I got it off. We're going to put a new stake on the back though, but I'm going to use a piece of stem from some greenery I had, and I'm going to just, it's going right through the plastic part, but I'm not going through the metal, right? So it's almost like stripping a wire, and I'm going to pull the plastic piece off so that I have these two wires or metal pieces that will fit into here. This way I can easily cut this down to the right size. That's why I changed it out. In case y'all are wondering, why didn't you just leave the original one? Because it's too tall, and I don't want to ruin those little cutters down there that's to the corner down there. I don't want to ruin those. I've had them a long time. Okay, so I don't want the Be Kind. It was kind of blurry when I bought it. All of the options were kind of blurry. So I've just blacked that out. You can go in there with a marker or a piece of chalk. You can write, specialize it. You can put a letter on there, whatever you want to do. But I thought, let's use some greenery on her. Let's use some of the same things we're going to be using in the arrangement to put right down on this cute little gnome girl. I assume it's a girl, maybe a boy, who knows, but it's got long braids. And then we're going to take some greenery and just make it look like she's holding like a little bouquet of flowers. Like she's been walking through a garden, she has picked these, and she is taking them back to her little house. Now I'm just cutting little pieces here and there of like the eucalyptus and the leaves and the flowers to just add them down. I actually even cut the little pieces of, looks like little seeds over there to the side. I actually cut those into little pieces too, and I'll be adding those rather than using them as a big piece. It would overwhelm her because it's such a little pick. So I'm trying to keep it, you know, a little bit closer to imaginary scale. Let's just put it that way. And then I'll add these here and there. And now she has a little bouquet. Isn't that cute? All right, so she needs to age a little bit, right? She's got to have a little dust on her. So I'm going to just put a little bit of this dried brush on here. I don't add anything extra to it at this point. Just going to go over some of that brightness and that yellow. And then where I have it on her little ponytails, I'm going to go back over it and take it right off those braids. Okay, so now here's our little pot all clean. I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to spray it down with some of this rustic orange, and then I'm going to distress it. I've got to have my projects clean first. If you want to have a dirty pot in your house, that is totally fine. I'm not going to do that. So now it's been sprayed down, it is dry, and now I'm going to start aging it with my wax. So we're going to give that depth back to it. Right? We're going to give the depth back to it. I'm taking my brush, patting it in there. This has ridges all the way across, almost like as if it were a clay piece. So there are little ridges in here. I'm going to go over those ridges and use all of that as accent in here. I'm going to make this look like it has been sitting out in the yard. However, it is clean, so we can use it in our house. I think I'm going to use this in my screen porch area though. By the way, are y'all interested in watching me clean and decorate my screen porch? I have done that for a few years, and I would love to do that again for y'all if it's something you'd like to watch. Oh, y'all, I just got the notification that I have reached 9 million views on this channel. Yay! Thank y'all for watching. I appreciate it so much. Everybody who's watching and sharing and liking my videos and subscribing to my channel, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that so very much. Yay! 9 million! Man, that's humbling. That's a humbling number, y'all. Okay, once I get it together and dry, I'm going to drop a piece of concrete in the bottom. You can put some rocks in there, whatever you got to put in your pot. And I am going to start loading in my foam. Now, I put the concrete in there because I don't want this to get knocked over. And if you walked past it, it would probably fall right over. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I have some of this foam in each of the little window areas where the plants will be so that I can attach it. Okay, doesn't have to make sense on the inside because it's all going to be covered up. All right, so here's a little different angle. I am going to take some of my floral picks, and most of them are kind of repeats. They all have pretty much the same thing on each little pick. And I'll add them into each of these little spots. Some are kind of upward, some are going to be kind of outward. Trim off anything you need to trim. It's slightly at an angle. You can see how it's kind of at an angle here. And you can reposition. Not a big deal because we're not gluing this down, right? So you can take these out and fix them anytime you need to. I'm going to cut these picks apart. By the way, these came from TEMU. But you can use any greenery from any place you like, okay? Any place you like. There are people who watch the videos, though, who come from other countries and other areas where they don't have pound stores, they don't have Dollar Tree, and they're looking for affordable options, and anybody can get to TEMU. So I like to give those people some options, okay? We don't need to talk about political stuff here. We don't do that now. Okay, so we're going to keep going. And I'm going to add these in. I like how they kind of fall over. I'm giving it that little spilled over appearance by just bending the end just a little bit. There's wire in the greenery, right? So you know you can change the shape of it anytime you would like to just by flexing it, bending it, twisting it, however you want to do it. Whatever looks good to you and brings you joy, that's the right thing to do. I'll add more here and there where it looks a little bit fuller. And sometimes, according to how much I have, I'll just add it until I get it as full as I want it. The idea here is to make it pretty without having a bunch of the greenery still showing. We don't want a bunch of greenery showing. Okay? Now we're going to go around and keep adding. I've cut those pieces down a little bit smaller so they're like little sprigs of 3 and put those off to the side just to give it a little variety and texture difference. And so far, I think it's very pretty. If you had faux strawberries or faux berries of any type, you can certainly use those here. But you know, I like to take things that I thrift and kind of give them a different life and maybe let you see it from a different vantage point. So yeah, it's for berries and strawberries, but does it have to be? No, it doesn't. All right, so once we're satisfied with the look of the arrangement, pretty satisfied, and at any point I can change things out if I want. I'm going to take some more of those picks and just add those in the top. I don't want it to be too leggy, so I'll shove those stems as far as I can in there and fluff those out. We got to have a little grassy area for our gnome to stand in. Keep going. Bend some downward so they look like they're spilling over just slightly. I like these. They're kind of fluffy and fuzzy. Just a lot. It's a different texture, you know. I was going to use the ferns, but then I decided, no, we're gonna go with this in this project. We'll add the little gnome in there. And see, you can take that stem and easily cut it if you need to cut it. If it would have been a little bit stiffer, that would have been better to kind of hold her in place. But that's okay. That's all right. She is resting against the greenery. She's just kind of leaned back a little bit, chilling out. She's picked her flowers, and now she's resting. Okay, so I do add a couple of these pieces of fern back into here. Just a few here and there. It gives it sort of a flyaway look. It extends it out just a little bit. And I like the look of this. I think it's pretty. It's very airy and springy and cottagey. And I love the fact that the colors match so much the other projects that we did with bees on it. So if you love bees, this is probably the thing for you. Now look at that, y'all. Think of all the ways you can do this. Look at all the different ways. Yeah, I think this is pretty good. I like this one. I like all the rest of them too, though. I think they're cute. Be sure when you're doing your projects that you're looking in all directions. Remember, you see me moving it around, looking at it at all angles, because you don't ever know where you're going to have a hole or something just doesn't seem to flow right. And because I didn't glue anything down, I can easily move it around. And it's going to be on a screen porch that is covered. So I shouldn't have to worry about things being blown out of place, right? And because I put the concrete in the bottom, I also don't have to worry about it being knocked over unless it's a storm that comes through. So yeah, not bad at all. Here are the bee projects for today. I am going to link for you a bee crafting playlist. I have made lots of bee crafts that I hope that you enjoy. And if I have enough likes on this video, I'll make more. I'd love to have you as a YouTube subscriber. It means a lot to me. Hit the notification bell so you don't hit anything. And if you don't miss anything, if you liked anything that you saw in this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. It tells me I'm doing a good job, and it also tells YouTube that I'm working hard and doing a good job for my place of employment. Be humble, y'all. Be humble. Be kind. Be a good person. Be loving. Be forgiving. Be nice. Be supportive. Be somebody that someone looks up to. You never know who's watching you. The first is going to be an oval sign. We're going to start off with a napkin with bees on it, very pretty. A little wood round, and it's an oval shape. This is a stand that I already had and used in other projects. We're going to use it again. Antiquing wax, of course. Mod Podge. Some white chalk paint. This is Adirondack. And then, of course, a variety of paintbrushes. Always got to have our tools. So I'm going to start off by taking that antiquing wax and going around the bottom part of this frame. The flat top is going to be painted differently, but I want to stain all of this. You're going to see me apply it, and I'm going to put it on there pretty thick. And then as soon as I get it completely applied, I'll go back over it with a dry cloth and wipe back quite a bit of that wax. I want to be sure that I have even coverage and that it soaks down into the wood. So that's the purpose of putting it on thickly and then wiping it back off. Then I'm going to start on the top with the white paint. I should have grabbed a thicker brush, but look how easy this makes so that you can get your edge nice and flat. If you put your paintbrush to the edge and pull it back toward the center, you can get a nice crisp edge on the top. Then we're going to dry it, of course. You can see that I got some stain on the back as well. And we'll take this beautiful napkin, and it's got two prints on it, so it's repetitive, you know, it's two different prints, and it's in 4. I'm going to cut it right down the middle and decide which section I want to go on this little standing sign. I'm going to take my layers apart and then lay it on here. Now, some napkins have 1 layer, some have 2, and there may even be more than that, you know. But for this one, there were 2, and I took those off, and you can see that it's quite translucent now. Putting this white on here will really make the colors in that beautiful watercolor pop. Now, I chose satin Mod Podge, but you can choose any, you know, any type that you like on here. You can use regular, you can use glossy if you like a glossy finish. For my taste, I'm just going to use the satin, and I'm going to put a nice smooth layer on there and put this delicate piece right on top. Now, when I say delicate, I really do mean it. You have to be super careful when you use tissue or you use a 1-ply of a napkin. They're very thin, and once they're wet, they can tear easily. So I'm very gently using my brayer over the top, and then I'll just barely let the weight of the brayer itself rub that across the top. I don't want to tear anything, so I'm just very, very gently going around it. I'm going to cut off the excess because, you know, you can always use that on another project. I got part of the bee butt on there. Cut the rest of it out. Look at that little bee butt. And this is how it's going to look so far. Give it a chance to dry, And then once it is dry, you can take a finger sander or a sanding block or an emery board, whatever you have there, and just start filing off the excess. Be sure that you're not filing down on top of the area that you've put the wax on, or you're going to be lifting the wax back up. Unless you like that look, then go right ahead and do that. Down and away, and this will just shear that off, and you can easily pull that off of there. And you get a very clean finish. And see, I didn't tear it there. That's the little bee butt that got left on there, but it looks like it's torn, but it's not. It's just the end of the bee with one little leg or a little stinger. And this is how it's going to look so far. And then I know I want to put it on the stand, so yeah, it's going to look good there, but we need to make that print look similar to what is going on in that stand. I could always repaint it, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what we do. You can use screws, whatever you want to attach this back with, but for me, I repurpose a lot of things, so some hot glue is going to work fine for me. And I'll just put a little scrap of burlap over the top of it to help kind of sandwich that down in between and give it a little more stability. The wood is very light. It doesn't take a lot to hold it up. So now we want to try to make that match the stand that it's on by just adding a little bit of the antiquing wax, taking most of it off, and then starting to work around the edges and across the top. Keeping in mind that this is a white. I really don't want to mess this up too bad, so I like to work in kind of like stages, a little bit at a time until I get it as dark as I like it. And I really like it. And can you see very lightly that blue underneath there? It's like a blue honeycomb. Very pretty. Yeah, I think this is definitely looking good. We can add a little something extra to it for the ladies and gents out there who like little bows or something a little extra. So I've got some raffia here. I actually, maybe I got this from Dollar Tree. I can't remember because it wasn't in the original packaging. But I know you can get stuff like this at Dollar Tree. It matches the lavender that is in the picture, so I'm just going to use a piece of it. I'm going to use it still bundled up. And then I'll just cut a piece off, tie it in the middle, and that's going to help make the base of our bow. Y'all, the napkins that you'll see me using in this video came from a napkin swap that we did on the Crafty Cruise getaway that we did in February. We all brought napkins and everyone exchanged their extras, and I love these napkins. And I will be using some more napkins coming up soon too, because it's an easy and inexpensive way to make beautiful decor for your home. And that's what we like to do on this channel, right? Of course. All right, so all I'm doing is just simply tying it around the back. Very easy to do. Snipping off a little bit of the extra. And then just kind of fluffing out the little loops that will be the parts of our bow. And like I said, you certainly don't have to put a bow on there if you don't want to. But this is just for those who really like a bow. I think this one turned out very cute. And you can also get little wood pieces at the Dollar Tree to craft with. I hope you like this one. On to the next. We are going to make a flameless candle. We're not actually going to make the candle. We're going to use a broken candle. It's squished on one side. I got it at the thrift store. There's a crack in it somewhere. And we're going to cover it up and make it new. Going to use some Mod Podge, some more of the napkin, this entire piece. I'm just going to put a little something underneath the edge of it to keep it from rolling on my table. And I'll take that same satin Mod Podge and go all over it. Just all over it in a nice even coat. You want it to be an even coat, and you don't want to do too thick when you use paper. Paper or tissue, you don't want to make it too thick. If you're using fabric, you can go ahead and put more on there because fabric is thicker, right? But not this delicate paper. So you have to be very careful. But it is so worth your patience. Believe me, it is so worth your patience. When you find that beautiful print that you really love, and you think, you know, why do they just put these on napkins? This would have been beautiful on a piece of decor. So you know what we do? We use that inspiration and we make our own decor, just like we're doing in this video. And I encourage you to look at things that you see out in the open when you're shopping and when you're in the thrift store. Think of it that way. Okay, so now I know this is the right size because I've already measured and it's the perfect size, luckily. If not, you know, you can cut yours down. I'm going to very gently stand it on the table, and then work my way around the candle. Tap, tap, tapping it. Not dragging it, not pushing down hard. I'm barely putting my hand on there. Barely. Gently, gently, gently. No matter how rough it might look, believe me, I'm being very careful. So we have a little excess in the back where it overlaps. I'm just going to cut that off, but you can certainly leave it on and don't worry about cutting it off. Totally up to you. It's going to be in the back. It's on that side where my candle is dented and where the crack is, so no one's going to see it. I'll be sure that I put it in a place where it won't be as noticeable. Then I'm going to gently go over it with a little more Mod Podge. And look how simple this is. Now, how long did that actually take? I mean, of course, thinking about the dry time too, but you know, how long did that take? That was so easy. This is a very beginner-friendly project, I think. Look how pretty it is when it's lit up. I love that. Oh, I hope you like this. And if you're a new crafter, I hope you do this. You can also get flameless candles at the Dollar Tree. So go find some napkins you like or some tissue paper that you like and get you a flameless candle and start crafting. If you don't have Mod Podge, you can use school glue. Yep, it's that easy, y'all. It's that easy. All right, the next one is a Floral Mini Cup. Using a cup I already had that I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to use some of that same Mod Podge and a brush and the same napkin. Look how we're really stretching our dollar in this video, right? All right, so now I'm going to divide my napkin again. Just pull that apart. And if you have a hard time getting your napkin apart, take your fingers on the edge of the print and just kind of roll them back and forth like you're rolling a little ball of clay in your fingers, and it should separate. If not, just keep working with it and be patient, and you can get that off. Now I'm going to, since this is a tiny cup, right, I'm going to cut out pieces that I like and make my own print on the side of the napkin. So I'm going to, and you can see here I didn't divide it all the way. So I still have another layer on there, which I'll get, don't worry, I'll get it. Now you can see I took it off, and you see the difference, how clear that is? I'm going to put that satin Mod Podge on here. This cup will not be used for drinking. It's only for decor. If you wanted to use a cup, full-size cup to do this, you could, but you need to use dishwasher safe, all right? So I'm going to add a little Mod Podge, thin amount, and I'm just going to decide where I want that little bee to be. And then I'm just kind of tapping it into place right here. You can do this with your fingers, just like to give you options. And then very carefully, I'm going to go back over that bee around the edges. I mean, I am barely touching this, barely. And I'll smooth that out. You want to get that on there and then quit touching it. You don't want to put much on there while it is really wet, because you can drag that print off and it can tear. Just be careful. All right, so now we're going to work our way around the cup. I'm going to add a little bit more, and you can see here that this section is showing me it needs to be divided, so I'm just going to pull that off. And we have this thin piece. I think I'm going to add it sideways on here. I like that. That way I can get the whole print on, because I really wanted the green and the purple on there. So the greenery and the floral part, you just put it on there sideways. I can make it my own, can I? Yep, if this is what brings me joy, I can make it my own, and so can you. I've done lots of bee videos in the past. I'm going to have those linked down below for you, and also in the pinned comment, so you can watch more bee videos if this is what you like. So I'm adding another piece on here, sort of overlapping into the greenery. The bee has had a little chance to start drying, so I can add a little more over the top. I want the layering to be about the same. I want everything to be about the same, so I don't have any clumpy areas and any areas that are being missed by the Mod Podge. We want it all locked in there. This is especially important if you plan on using a full-size cup and you want to be able to use this to, you know, to drink from or what have you. Put flowers in, live flowers, anything that you're going to be getting wet. You really want to make sure that everything is locked in. All right, now I'm just working around the handle there. I'm going to go underneath. See, now it looks like the bee is having some nectar out of that beautiful little yellow flower. Pretty. I like the look of it. All right, now it's dried. This is how it looks. And we can just add florals. Very easy, another beginner friendly type floral. All you have to do is get your scraps and just tuck them in there. I'm just going by the colors that are in the print that I chose, and I'm just going to add those pieces in there. Since it's springtime, I decided that I would make these look a little bit springy with the colors that I chose, but you can do this any way you like. You can do this, can't you? You can certainly do this. And by the way, if you are a new crafter, I encourage you to keep your scraps. Absolutely, with the florals. Very cute. A nice little display. Some of these projects in this video are going to be perfect for your tier trays, ladies and gents. So if that's what you're looking for, stay tuned. The next project is going to be a little plant stand. So this is a little, I don't know what this is actually. I'm going to call this a plant stand because that's what it looks like to me. But I don't know what the little dip is for in there. Do you know what that's for? Then this fits almost perfectly on the top. This time, rather than using Mod Podge, we are going to use a glue stick. This is a school glue stick, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Now I've got down to my one layer, chosen the print that I like off the napkin. My piece is already a tad aged, it's got some scratching and scraping, and I'm going to leave it just like that while we put this on the top. I'm going to make sure that I go around the edges and then all over the top so there are no gaps. I don't want bubbles or anything, so I'm really laying it on thick here. This purple will fade to clear when it is dry. Now I'm going to put this print right on top while it is still wet and just tap it. Carefully tapping it, and then I'm looking to make sure that it's across all the sides and I don't have any space. And I am barely touching this, barely feathering my fingers over it. Then I'll use my brayer and just gently roll over the top. The school glue is not as wet, so you can use a little more pressure when you use school glue than you can when you use a wet product like glue or Mod Podge. When it is dry, we're going to go around the edges here and just sand that off, just like we sanded it off on the very first project. Sanding down and away, and then sometimes it will come off in one row or one piece, and sometimes you just have to work with it a little bit, and then you can get those sections off. You want to go around the entire top and get all of those little edge pieces off. Then it's almost going to look like it was hand painted on the little riser. I love that. This is going to make an adorable honey plant stand. Absolutely. I'm going to take some celery because I decided I want the bottom to be a different color. So I'm just going to grab my chalk paint and a flat brush, and I'm going to go all over the bottom section. I'll leave the top white and the underneath white. Nobody's going to be looking at any part of that. And in the areas that you see me get a little bit sloppy here, I will go back over that with a little bit of white chalk paint to freshen it back up. I do bump around and get a little bit of a mess on there, but we don't sweat that kind of stuff. You can see my little bump marks there. So it's very easy to erase it once the paint is dry. You just go over it with a little white and everything is fresh and new. Here is that little plant stand. Very cute. I can see a little succulent sitting on top of this. I think that would be precious. Little hens and chicks. Very cute right there. Or even something that will trail down. The next will be our Dollar Tree Tag Duo. This is the biggest project in the video. Going to use ivory chalk paint, paintbrush, of course, some burlap from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a vinyl bee sticker, and then 2 of these little signs from the Dollar Tree. They look like tags. On one of these pieces, on one of the tags, I'm going to be cutting out and covering it with the burlap. Protect your fingers. We're going to be touching hot glue. I'm going to put that glue down here and then take my covered fingers and then press it down and hold it in place for a moment to catch. And then on this side, I'm going to add some hot glue, a little bit more on this side. 2 lines works better. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, you know, be here, be part of that 100,000 that I'm working for by Halloween. I would love it if you're enjoying the video to give me a thumbs up so that I know that you like the content, that what I am doing on my channel is something that you enjoy. And always, always, I ask that you comment down below because we are active in the comments. Not only do I comment, but other sweet, sweet watchers will also comment on your videos if there's any way that they can help you. We have a close, tight-knit community here. We keep the comments clean and safe, and I want you to feel at home. All right, so now we're just going around the back, and we're adding all the pieces down with the hot glue. I'm trying to make my corners kind of neat and folded in so that they look manufactured instead of just slapped together. I'm going to press that down, and then once I give the glue a chance to set, I'll grab my scissors and trim off the excess just to make it a little less bulky because, you know, in the end you'll want to go back over this and add some type of a crafting paper or something to cover up the back, make it nice and neat. Just tucking that corner, rolling it over, pressing it down, and then trimming off the excess again. Then I'm going to go in the top, and this will be our last little piece that we have to add the hot glue to keep this nice and neat. Did y'all see the little bee there? The bee says, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Y'all remember that song? Yes, I remember it. I sure do. All right, now I chose ivory because it's very similar to the shade of white or cream that is in the bee sticker, and I want it to look like it belongs together. But I could have used white because there's white on this fabric. So I have this little loop. It came from Dollar Tree in a little bag. I don't really even know what these things are, but I like to use them for tab sign toppers. They look nice. It gives it a finished look when you put your rope or your twine or your ribbon through the top, but you'll see what I mean. So I'm taking my very tiny sharp detail scissors. I've just cut an X in there and I'm trimming it out. I want that to be open, and at first I think, okay, let's use some antiquing wax on here. So if you want to use antiquing wax, this is what you'll do. Very easy. Dip into it and then just kind of put it all over there. The only place you won't put the antiquing wax is going to be on the bottom part where you'll have glue. Okay, because glue and antiquing wax do not mix. They repel one another and they won't stick. I'm going to take my finger protector and some hot glue and push the ends into the inside, and then you can put this right on top. It's a little bit bigger than the diameter of the hole, but you know, we're going to fix that. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix it. So once it is glued in place and I look at it, I'm thinking, no, let's do black. So I will go back over this entire thing with black, which is what you see me doing here. I think it's called Rich Black. It is a chalk paint. Chalk paint, for those of you who wonder why we always use chalk paint, it dries quickly. It gives a nice full coverage. So a lot of crafters like a mineral or chalk paint for that reason. But you can use acrylics. It just takes a little longer. All right, so here is my bee. I did get my bee from TEMU, but you can print yours out yourself if you have, you know, if you have a Cricut or some type of a printing tool, you can do it yourself, or you could even print something off on, you know, a colored printer, cut it out and decoupage it, because now you know how to decoupage, right? We already looked at how to do it with the other projects, so you'll know exactly what you're doing. So I'm just going to press this bee onto here with my hands. The paper or the backing looks wrinkly, but it's really not. And I'm pretty sure when I put this down, I should have divided again with the paper, but you know, I didn't do that and it turned out completely fine. So I am just going to push this down. I have a Mod Podge squeegee, but you use a credit card, you can use your driver's license, whatever you want to use for this. And I am going to begin to take the backing right off of here. So as I'm doing this, I'm not using any type of a weeding tool because maybe you don't have one, but you can buy them at Dollar Tree if you're interested. I'm going to just gently pull and make sure that I am looking under the edge so that I'm not pulling off a leg or any fine details in here. You can see the bee has kind of like a fuzzy looking edge around its body, and I want to leave that there. I don't want to tear any of that off. Now I'm taking that squeegee and going right back over. It is laying nice and flat and thin and beautifully. She is good to go. And I was instructed by several people that the bees, the honeybees, are all female. The ones who protect the queen, they are all female. So the queen has her squad, and I love that. Who better to protect you than your buddies, right? Absolutely love it. So now I want to, of course, age this. You don't have to do this step if you don't want, but I've just got a little bit of my antiquing wax. And by pouncing it, I push that antiquing wax up into the bristles of the brush. And then I am just going to pat a little bit off and then go all around the edges of this board. I'm also going to get in, I think I cut it out in the editing, but kind of around the bee to give a little shadow around that bee as well. And you just do light layers until you get it the color you want. And then I also went around the hole on the top. And I like that. So now I'm going to take my hot glue, and I'm just going to start off by making sure that I have those two holes lined up on the top and that my bee antenna are not hidden. I want my bee to show. Then I'll just use some of these little clamps to clamp this in place because I'm going to be lifting up on this part slightly to add glue in there to attach the two pieces together. I'll hold it down for a moment and then grab some weights, and these are just little garden stones, and I'm just going to put those on there, give them a little time to dry. And then I'm going to use this pretty piece of trim. I think this came from Dollar Tree. I am going to double it over onto itself about an inch from the end, glue it onto itself so it makes one continuous circle. And then I am going to let it dry. You can see it's a very tight bond. And then I'll go right through the center, pull it through the back, grab the back, and pull it up on the top. Make sure that my ribbon is laying nicely, that it is where it should be. And then if you would like to put a bow on there, you can certainly do it, but I skipped it for this one. It was still kind of spinning when I did this end screen, so I apologize for that. I don't want to make anyone dizzy, but it was still moving a bit. You can iron your burlap, I'm sure, to get the lines out, but it didn't bother me for my project. Now we're going to make a honey jar and spoon. Ooh, I hope you like this one. So we have some more of the raffia in yellow. I have a little honey dipper spoon. I got a bag of these. A brush. Some Mod Podge. This one is dishwasher safe. A little, now see, I thrift these things. This says Wagner, and I don't know what it says on the side, but it's a little jar with a little plug top. Love it. And then some fabric from Dollar Tree that I got last year. Yes, last year. They may have it again this year. So now we're going to be Mod Podging with a little bit of fabric. Okay, so all I'm doing is tearing a piece down that will work on the size of this bottle. You can cut it as well, but I like it kind of rough and kind of tattered on the edges. I'm going to add on my Mod Podge, and I'm putting a little bit more on there than I would for the tissue. Same process of lining it up till I get it stuck down. Now with the fabric, you do have the liberty of moving it around a little bit before your Mod Podge dries. So if anything looks crooked, you can kind of slide it. All right. Now I'm going away from the edge, and then when I get close to the top and the bottom, I'm brushing downward so that the little frayed areas will show. I don't want them bunched up and haphazard looking. You know what I mean? Now with the fabric, I don't think I cut this off. I think I just overlap it. So you can overlap if you want to. It's going to be on the back. Y'all come see my videos on Mondays and Thursdays at 6. I would love, love, love to see you there. Continue along until I get this saturated. And I can kind of tell how much is on there by the look of it. You'll know what I mean. You know wet fabric from dry fabric. Now this is a baby wipe, and I'm just going along wiping off any little smears because it'll leave a hazy area, and I want the glass to be nice and crisp and clear. We're going to set it aside and let it dry, and I'm going to use some gloss Mod Podge and some King's Gold. Use whatever color you want to try to make a honey color. Okay, I haven't found the perfect one yet, and the only yellow glue stick that I had that I was going to use has glitter in it, so I don't think that was appropriate either. I just add a little brown to it because it's looking a little too mustardy, and then in my end result it's still a little mustardy, but that's okay. I was hoping it would have more of a clear look, but it didn't, but I'm all right with that because this is a craft, right? I'm going to pour some of that into the jar, swirl it around, roll it on its side so that it goes up the sides. It almost looks like when the honey crystallizes. You know how it looks when it crystallizes? That's kind of how it looks. We'll just say that's what happened, like we did it on purpose. Now I'm going to pour the excess back in there. And then you'll need to find some way to hang it upside down so that air can circulate on the inside, but the paint can drip to the outside. So I'm using a spray paint can top and 2 little wood sticks. Now I'm going to go in there with because I decided I didn't want it that high up. It was just a mess. So I'm taking a damp baby wipe and my finger and cleaning up the edge on the inside so it looks like maybe the jar's not completely full, but there's still some in the bottom. Now we're going to dip our little spoon. Dip it straight in there and then let it drip and then find some way to dry it. I used a clamp and a cookie rack so that it will drip downward and dry that way. Here is the dried bottle. Very cute. I love this. This is so precious to me. And how cute on a tiered tray. Here's a spoon with almost a drip coming off the bottom. And then I'm going to I found some black raffia in my stash, so we're going to use that too. And we're going to tie it across the top on the neck of that little jar or bottle, the vessel, whatever it is. And then I'm going to start another knot on the same side. Leaving a little gap in there so we can put the spoon in. Now, as long as this is sitting somewhere like this, the spoon will stay in place. But you might want to add a little bit of hot glue if you plan on moving it around a lot, because it can freely slide out of that tie. And now I'm carefully making sure that my little pieces of raffia are straight. You know, if you pull these too hard, they'll just break. So you got to be careful with them. And then I'm going to trim them and kind of tweak them out a little bit. And you can still move that around so you can see whatever part of the pattern that you like best. I bet you could find a bottle similar at the Dollar Tree. This is very cute to me. I really like this one. Sweet little bee, a little honey jar. Perfect in your kitchen. Then next will be an embroidery hoop wreath. Alright, so here is some more of that raffia in black and beige and yellow. A oval embroidery hoop. Here is that measurement. It's about 9 inches. And some more of that beautiful bee fabric. I'm going to open up the loop. You just kind of unscrew it if you're not familiar with it. Just unscrew it a little bit. Take your antiquing wax and color the hoop. You don't necessarily have to do the bottom, so I'm not showing you when I do that because it didn't matter. I'm going to go all over the top. I am using a baby wipe. The dampness from the baby wipe is going to make this a little more sheer than it would be if you put it on with a brush. So that's why you see me using this. I'm trying to explain everything in this video in case any of you are new to crafting or staining or Mod Podging, whatever the issue may be. I want everyone to feel comfortable here. You can do this. You can find so much joy in crafting, and it is so important. It's like a mission to me for people to find joy in their life. I just feel drawn to that. I feel like that's something that I need to do, and what better way to do it than crafting? Now I'm going to cut off a little bit of fabric. I did lay the embroidery hoop on top to make sure that I had enough to cover the frame. And then I'll look and see through there which part of the print that I like the best. And I took the side that had more bees in it. So I'm going to pull my little edges, make it nice and neat. We will be trimming it off, so you know you don't have to do that, but it bugs me, so I do it. I'm going to lay this on top of the solid piece, making sure I have some overhang. And then I'll make sure that it is unscrewed on the top, because that's what holds it together. And then gently press that down onto the bottom without scooting the fabric around. This is not difficult. Not difficult at all. And I noticed Dollar Tree has some little embroidery hoops in a little kit that are round. So if you don't have something like this, go ahead and use the ones that are round. Just make them a little bit smaller. That will be nice too. And very nice on a tier tray. All right, so now what you see me doing is holding it in place, but making sure I don't have wrinkles and buckles in the fabric. So you can kind of adjust that a little bit because nothing is glued down, right? I'll take some small scissors and I'll lay the blades right on the side of the wood frame and trim off all the excess. Now, if there's anything on there that you can use, save your excess because you could use it for something else. Now with an oval, you can use it either way. You can use it, you know, up and down, or you can do side to side. I like the idea of it being fat like a little pumpkin, so I'm going to do it this way. We're going to make a very simple bow for the top with black, beige, and the yellow. I'm going to grab the ends here. And then I'm going to use my hand, see my 4 fingers here as my measurement. I got them to my pinky finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then after my 6th loop, I'm going to grab it in the middle, cut off the ends. I'm going to hold both sides and pinch them to the center. And that's going to be the top of our bow. Isn't that a cute bow with all the different colors that coordinate with the print? And how easy, very easy, y'all. Now we're going to tie it around the middle. If you want to have tails on your bow, I'm going to show you how you can very simply add some tails on your bow. But first we're going to tie it off so it's easier to manage. You see how that breaks? Yeah, you can't tie it too tight. Can't do it too tight. You could also use jute if you're worried about it. Now I'm going to pull down about, probably, if I had to guess, let me see how much I got there. About 14 inches, and I'm going to do that twice. So there are 2 of each color. And then I'm going to tie this right around the middle of that bow where we tied it with the black. Now I'm only going to tie one time, and I'm not going to put another knot in it yet, because we're going to use a little piece of wire in here so that we can attach it onto the frame. You're going to fluff your little bow out a little bit. You can see how it's going to look. Also, if you like it a little bit messier, you can take your scissors and go right through the edges of the loops and make it a little messy bow. So we're going to just take advantage of the fact that there's a screw that's holding this together, and we're going to attach it with that. Now I can tie this tightly, put another knot in it, and make this wire what attaches this to the top. Going to go right around the base of that screw where it attaches, twist it on a couple of times, of course. We want it to be sturdy, and then we'll trim it off with our wire cutters. If you have a thin enough wire, you could probably just use some shears for that. And then a dot of hot glue to make this stand still up there. And then you can cut your tails down to whatever size you like best. You can fluff them out, you can fluff them all the way around, cut them a little at a time until you get them the right length. And then I'm just making sure that I've pulled out a little bit of each color. Very easy to do. And how cute is that? You can hang it on the wall right off of the frame, or you could also, if you wanted to make a hanger with burlap, you could make a hanger, or you could just prop it up in your tier tray. Who's going to do this? I know you can do it. The next is going to be a mini riser, and it's a little bitty thing, y'all. All right, some more of that Mod Podge and a brush, of course. I'm going to use some black chalk paint, rich black, a little candle holder. This one I think I got from the thrift store, but you can definitely use one from Dollar Tree. Another piece of that bee fabric. And this little piece came from from Target. I like to get mine when I find them at dirt cheap, because I can get them very inexpensive, and I do have several of these. We're going to take that black chalk paint, and we are going to paint it all over this little thing, except we're not going to paint the bottom. We're going to leave that without paint. You can also use spray paint to do that if you would like. Now I'm going to use a mold here. These came from TEMU, and I'm going to decide what size circle I want. This is so much easier than the way I used to have to do this. I'm going to flip the fabric over, making sure I've got the prints that I want, and I want those 2 bees in there. And then using a pencil, I'm going to gently trace out an outline of the circle. That's why I said do it slowly, because it will pop up. It's thin plastic or vinyl, whatever it is. And then I'll get my scissors and I'm going to cut out, I'm cutting out right to the inside of that line, but actually I probably should have cut a little bit more onto the inside because it ends up being a bit too big, but I will fix it. Carefully with this. Now, if you have something that's the exact same measurement, you could always use that. I could have used another one of the round pieces to do it and trace it out that way, I suppose. But you know how it is when you're in a rush and you're working. I did 10 projects this day, y'all. 10 in one day. Yes. So you see here, it's still a little bit big. So I thought, I know what I can do. I'm going to fold it in half. Fold it again. And then I'm going to take my very sharp little scissors and I'm going to trim just a little bit more off on the inside, trying to keep that same amount all the way around. Taking your time, not leaving little jags in the fabric, making sure it's nice and smooth. And now when I open it up, it fits. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But the fact that the fabric backing is white and so is the top of this little plate, it's going to blend in. You're really not going to notice it. And if somebody's looking that closely and critiquing your work, they don't need to be at your house, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm adding a little more Mod Podge on here because, again, we're using fabric, so it can tolerate a little more. And you really need to lock it in. So once we get that pushed down and all in place, a squeegee really won't fit in there. I'm just using my finger and I can feel to make sure it's smooth. I'm going to go over the top of it with the Mod Podge to seal it in place. Now, if you're going to be using this for to put your wet rings on when you're washing dishes or whatever might possibly be wet, what are we going to use? The dishwasher safe. That is correct. So we're not going to worry about this for that because I'm not going to use it for that. I'm going to put a flameless candle on there. It's going to be good to go. All right, so let everything dry. Then we need to attach the bottom to the little plate. And I'm going to have this upside down because I want the bottom, which has the most surface area, to be able to grip the glue. It's a little harder to do a ring of glue and expect it to stay in place. So we're just flipping it over and it's going to give it more stability this way as well. I'm eyeballing it, of course, to keep it in place. And there you go. This is what it's going to look like when that glue has had a chance to dry. I'll take a scrap of that and use it almost like a ribbon to tie around here. Y'all, if you love bees and bee decor and bee everything, please go check out my store because I have designed my own bee decor and I have got some really cute stuff over there. You can get cups, bags, t-shirts, hoodies, whatever you like, and the money helps support the channel. So if you're interested in something like that, go over there and check it out. They also make really cute gifts. Okay, so now I've just got a simple bow on there, right? I'm going to trim this off and then I will add this to my bee decor pieces. Cute. I like this. You could also paint that bottom white if you want, or gold, or whatever you like. Make it your own. What would you use something like this for? All right, so now we're going to get a wood masher. All pretty. Another scrap of that fabric. We are stretching our dollar here, y'all, with a solid bee. We want the whole bee. Some very sharp little detail scissors. This is an antique potato masher or a pestle, which I got when I was thrifting. 11 inches tall. And then I'm going to use coordinating ribbon. One is from Big Lots and the other is from a clearance sale at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to take those very fine detail scissors and I am going to cut all around these little legs. Now, I cut around the legs. Hindsight, I should have just removed the legs and then drawn them in, because I do remove the antenna because they're so thin. So I'm just going to take the antenna off and I'm going to add some more in the end, okay? I am going to take that Mod Podge, put it on that bee once I get it cut out the way I like it. If you can't find the fabric, think about doing this with a napkin. Think about doing this with a sticker. Maybe you found some stickers with bees that you really like. Really think outside the box. Use my videos for inspiration, because you probably will never have exactly everything that I use, but you can certainly find things that will work in its place, right? Grab that inspiration. Now I'm going to add this Mod Podge on here to get this down. And I like the idea of using the satin on here, because in the end, this wood looks so rich and pretty. It looks like it has been polished. It surely does. And we're going to continue that Mod Podge all the way up, all the way around it, and up on the handle as well. You want to be sure that you are making nice, even strokes, and try not to leave any sections that are very thin and any sections that are clumpy and thick, because you will see that in the finish if you do. So make this nice and even, just like if you were painting. Imagine yourself painting this on, okay? Then I'm going to add it up here on the handle as well, and around the connection piece there where it all sticks together, because I don't believe this was all made into one piece. And after it's dry, look how pretty this is. See the difference between the bottom and this? Gorgeous. I want to age that bee and really make him pop. So I'm going to go into my antiquing wax, tap a lot of that off, and use this little brush. You can get little foam brushes at Dollar Tree, pretty much anywhere that you get craft supplies. And I'm going to go all the way around it, overlapping onto the wood and partly onto the bee. I'll use a fine tip marker. This happens to just be a permanent glass marker, and draw his antenna back on there. And then also I'll go over the legs as well to kind of, you know, really bring that back out. I'll take some of this beautiful plaid ribbon, and this is fall ribbon actually, but it works great for the bees. And I'm thinking of what size I'm going to need if I want to put a bow on here. And I do want to put a bow on here, because this is going to be cute on a kitchen tier tray or near a coffee bar. It would be really cute. It's kind of tall for a tier tray, I guess. But you know, you can put things near each other. Maybe even put this in a basket of decor that you have. Some wooden spoons or collection that you have of kitchen utensils would be very nice as well. I want the bottom bow to be larger, and we're going to put the thinner bow on top and make it a little bit smaller. So the loops will be smaller and the tails will be shorter. Using a little bit of jute, I am going to put it across the center, turn it around, and then give that a couple of knots. This jute is going to be what we use to attach it to the handle of the masher. You can put it anywhere along, but there's a crease right there at the top or a little indentation, and that's a perfect place to put a tie, because it won't slide up or down. It'll stay right there in that little nook or the little crook. Tie that tightly, and then we can cut that off. How's everybody doing today? It is springtime. Are y'all seeing the bees flying around? Are you seeing them working? Because I certainly am. I went and checked the blueberry bush, and it's full. It's full of little blooms, and it is full of activities from wasps and bees and bumblebees, honeybees, all kinds of activity. I'm so excited, and I hope the tree actually does what it should do this year, because last year was not a good year for our blueberries. All right, so you can dovetail or cut it aslant, and look how precious this is. Look how the bow really makes the color in that bee pop. It just needed it. It surely needed it. But you can also add a little flower bouquet or a swag to the top. Put a flower right in the middle of that bow if you'd like. The next is going to be a mini wreath. Little bitty wreath. So easy, y'all. So I've got some ribbons. I've got a little wreath, You can get these in a 2-pack at Dollar Tree. It's about 8 inches. I have never done this before, and I decided to give it a shot. This is just an idea I came up with on the fly. We're going to take 36 inches of ribbon that is, I believe this is 2.5-inch ribbon. It did say it on the, you might want to go backwards and check out and see what it said on the spool. I am going to take this wired ribbon and I'm going to start to pull the wire on one side, only one side. All right. So I'm going to grab my pliers to help me hold it. I'm not going to pull it all the way out. I'm going to pull several inches down, then I'll go to the other side and I will pull several inches down on that. What this is doing is making a gather. It's going to pleat this, just like you would if you were using a regular ribbon that you decided you wanted to make maybe a trim for, right? You could just sew on a stitch and then pull that thread to make it gather. Well, that's what we're doing here with the wire instead. So we're going to make a beautiful ruffle. I want to make this into the size that will go nicely over the center ring, the very middle. Now this little wreath that I actually got when I was thrifting, but I know you can get the same size at Dollar Tree. So if it doesn't look the same as yours, don't panic. It's going to work the same way. Now I'm going to take my free end and connect it right around the middle, just to start myself off so I know kind of where my placement is. I'm going to wrap it all the way around, and then I'll be kind of tying it off, twisting it off, tying it off. Then I'm going to pull the other end around to the same area, twist that off. You can see it's still floppy. It's still kind of flopping around a little bit there. And then I'll twist it over around the other one to lock that in place. And now I can move the ribbon around a little bit on the wire to get the right amount of spacing in the little pleats, which is whatever looks good to you, right? So to attach it, you can sew it, but I couldn't find my sewing needles. All I could find was like the big thick ones, and I didn't have anything to go through them to attach them. So I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have that, okay? So if you don't have that, you can just do it with hot glue. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to use my clamps here. I'm going to let that help hold the fabric where it needs to be against the frame while we add the hot glue on there. Now I can go around there on the inside. I don't want to glue the entire thing down, but you certainly could. I'm going to go on the inside and add it where it touches the wire frame. All the way around. Let it sit until it is cool. Then you can fix the little pleats because you still have the wire on the outside, right? We still have that outside wire, and that is going to help us make beautiful pleats and nice spacing wherever we need it. Now, it just so happens that when I was doing this, I left an area a little bit flatter than I would like, and that's where they connect, where I attached them to the frame. That's okay because I'm going to fix that. I was going to put a bow on here anyway, so we're just going to take advantage of the flat spot, and we'll put the bow there. Okay, so where it connects or where they touch, I'm going to kind of fold it over on itself, make a nice little seam, and then attach it to the ribbon, the other free edge. And now we have a seam and there's no opening. All right, I'm going to take a piece of that ribbon, same ribbon, and we're going to make a bow. Now, as I was experimenting, I removed the ribbon completely, the wire completely out of that piece of yellow and black ribbon. But you can use your wired ribbon for this. All right, so then I'm going to take this gold ribbon and we're going to put this right on top. Gold or yellow or mustard, whatever color you want to call this. They're both fall ribbons, but they work great, don't they? They really coordinate well with that fabric. I'm going to put those together, just like we did on the masher. Same sort of process, except I'm going to use one short end, and the other end I'm going to leave really long. I'm going to tie it in a knot right around the middle. Okay, I'm going to get that little short piece out of the way. Okay, I'm going to keep the short one out of the way. And I am going to take that and the long tail and wrap it around the middle so we can actually see more of this. We like the idea of having the jute in here for this one, so we're going to wrap it around all the way back so we have just a little bit of a tail left. We'll take the free tail that I was holding and that other end, and we're going to tie that in a double knot. Now you have a pretty center for the bow. You don't have to cover it. You can use it as an accent piece. If you didn't use burlap and you wanted to use a really pretty thin ribbon, you could have used black here or gold here. Just a little something different to make it your own. Then, of course, we have to fluff out our beautiful little bow loops. Fluffy fluff. And then cut the tails at whatever direction we like. So you can do this in a dovetail, which is cutting upward like this. Looks like a prize ribbon. Or you could also cut it at a slant like we did on the other bow. So you get so many different options, right? Ooh, I need to sharpen those scissors. And you can make it as long as short as you would like. We're going to leave this long. I'm just going to attach this with hot glue. It's very light, very easy. All right. Now keep in mind when we put this together, we didn't do anything with our frame, right? That frame is still green. It could be spray painted black so that it kind of blends in and it doesn't draw any attention, but the fact that it is green, we're going to have to do a little something with it. So I'm just taking a thin, this is just like a 1-inch spool of burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap it around the outer 2 rungs because the outer 2 rungs are the only pieces that you're going to see or possibly see when you have this hanging. So this will cover up your hardware. And you could do that certainly before you start, but like I said, this was a new project for me, so it was kind of experimentation. But I think it turned out super, super cute. You could hang this off of a doorknob. How cute would this be? I hope that you really enjoyed these projects because I've got some more down here in the rectangle. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you soon. Bye.